Any final thoughts on MCU Comic-Con announcements? Because I'm ready to talk about some Deadpool and Wolverine because I feel like it's been a long time coming, and we all went to the movies, the actual theater.
It's true.
Rare, very rare.
Very rare. When was the last time you went to the theater?
Well, me,
Well,
long
yeah,
legs.
yeah, I saw Long Legs the week before. Never mind. This question
Yeah.
sucks.
When's the last time you went to a theater where the parking lot was packed and the seats were almost full? Like when we went and parked, we had to park way out in the back of the lot, and the theater was almost completely full. So it's been a while since I've had that experience.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I had people clapping at the end, laughing together.
You had a better experience than I did.
Oh, we live in
My
Texas.
theater was extremely quiet, and I feel like my theater knew none of the jokes, none of the cameos. My theater was quiet as hell. They just sat there, and it was very confusing to me because I wanted, like, I was thinking, I'm like, okay, it's Saturday opening weekend, cameo pops up, people should be cheering. Nobody cheered. You got a couple chuckles, you got a couple polite laughs. As we talked about when we last two episodes talking about Deadpool 1 and 2, we were like, there's so many jokes, there's so much going on. So it's like there's a couple things that make you laugh out loud, or a lot that's like, I know this is funny, but I'm not going to laugh out loud. I'm just going to chuckle or smile. And that was what my whole theater felt like. Like everyone was just smiling, but nobody was actually reacting to anything that happened in the movie. So I had a very boring audience, which was disappointing.
Hit or miss, man. Hit or miss. I was kind of in the middle, but yeah.
So I'm jealous, Tony, that you got people clapping, and
Yeah, there was clapping at the end. I wasn't expecting it.
it's always a
The old
treat.
opening weekend clapper.
It's
Yep.
always it's random because you don't get clapping all the time, but it's always kind of fun. I think the last movie that I actually saw that had clapping at the end was Top Gun Maverick a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I think really hard. I could probably prove myself a liar, but I don't want to think that hard.
Yeah.
Not on Tony's birthday. So, you guys ready to talk about some Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah.
All right.
Surely.
So here's a quick synopsis of Deadpool and Wolverine, where we dive into the chaotic and thrilling adventure of Deadpool as he navigates the multiverse to save his timeline. With the unexpected help of various Wolverine variants, a resistance team, and some iconic Marvel characters, this movie explores the hilarious yet heart-wrenching journey of Wade Wilson. Will Deadpool succeed in saving his timeline and fixing his fractured relationship? Keep listening to Raised a Geek, and we will let you know.
We will.
So just a kind of a quick surface spoiler-free thoughts, and then we're going to dive deep into spoilers for all of this movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, this is your time to hear what we think and then bounce, and then come back as you're driving home from the theater. But what do we think? Surface, spoiler-free thoughts, anything that you feel like you can get off your chest before we really jump into it?
I'll go first, I guess. Enjoyed it a lot. I've got a new way of going into these Marvel movies a little bit over the past few years, and I know what I'm looking for, so I'm not like disappointed like I was for a while. Like things aren't Endgame anymore to me, but these movies can still be a lot of fun. So that's kind of what I went in looking for, and I feel like it did deliver that. A lot of fan service, a lot of meta humor, sometimes overkill on some of it, but still had a fun time. Like, I know we're trying not to use the word fun around here. We use it too much, but it's hard to describe it as like anything but that. Like, it's not a you don't got to think too hard while watching it. It's just like sit back, enjoy what they've put in front of you. Like I said, a lot of fan service and stuff for people who've been paying attention to everything that's been going on with Fox superhero movies over the years. And if you're a fan of the first two Deadpools, I think this movie is just kind of for you. That's just like kind of fits in right with those three. Out of the three, maybe, I haven't really thought about it too hard. I might put it at number 3, but it's still pretty good. So I enjoyed this movie. Had a lot of fun. Had a good time. Fun.
Fun. I enjoyed it too. Yeah, it was good. I think it was a really good third installment to finish up the trilogy. If we're gonna call this Deadpool 3, like that's what's considered, right? The third one.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like standalone. So yeah, I had a great time watching it. Like I said, it was good to see it opening weekend. I avoided almost all spoilers, which was great. And nothing too major. I didn't catch anything too important ahead of time. Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Don. I think right now it ranks for me third in the trilogy, but I feel like I need to go back and watch it another 2 times. Because we talked a little last night and I was trying to rack my brain about certain things that I knew that I laughed about. I'm like, oh my God, what part was that? And it's like, there's just so many jokes on top of each other and so many things that I missed where it's like, oh, I got to go back and watch this again. So I think it does rank 3 right now for me, but definitely it could be 2.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't even thought about a
long
ranking.
time coming. Everybody waited for this to have Wolverine, you know?
So, yeah, I mean, that's a whole other kind of conversation that we may slide into, which was just the idea of them teaming up. Just the whole idea of this movie is ridiculous, that it actually happened, that it exists. As we said, like I said, I have never thought about, haven't thought yet about where it ranks within MCU, where it ranks with Deadpool movies. Yeah, it may fall third, it might fall second. It's hard to even, it almost feels like a separate thing. It was still so much bigger than any other Deadpool movie was. Deadpool movies were pretty self-contained, and this one felt like, I mean, they were saving the world, which Deadpool never really did before. Or tried to, maybe. Spoilers. The one thing that I was not expecting that this movie to do was be a love song to the Fox Marvel universe. And that was very unexpected, but I didn't realize until it was over that it was like, I wanted that. And the way that they put that together, I thought was like beautiful in its own way, of just telling a lot of stories that never either got endings, or a lot of just things that they did just by cameos alone was just really, it was fun, as we're trying to say, funny, but then also like, as I said when we were doing the thing, just like kind of heart-wrenching in a lot of ways. So just the way that they did it was really cool. So it was a lot of stuff that I wasn't even expecting, almost on an emotional level. So I definitely was excited for that. And I think it's time. We just need to do some spoilers, and let's talk about this movie. Because I'm trying real hard.
Put it out there clearly. Spoilers now at this point.
Right now.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it. Go watch it.
It was wonderful that I went into this movie with pretty much 0 spoilers. No cameos were spoiled, and it was awesome. And if you have not been able to experience it that way, I'm sorry that our world sucks in a way, with the online communities that can't help themselves, or the IGNs of the world that can't help themselves, or watching the final trailer and spoiling stuff. It just sucks that we live in the world.
Even we talked about it in the last episode when we did Deadpool 2. We said we all agreed we're going to see this movie opening weekend. 1, because we want to, but 2, also, we're going to try to avoid these spoilers. And, you know, it's only a matter of time before it. So I went and saw this movie on Thursday night, which is even technically before it opened.
Yeah, you were there with the nerds.
Yeah, it opens on Friday. I went to see it Thursday night. And so I've seen it. So at this point, I'm not afraid to go on Twitter or Instagram or wherever you're going to go. But I log in and, like, there's just a spoiler on Thursday night that, like, as soon as I start going on, I was like, my goodness, if I had not gone and seen this movie tonight, I would have already had this spoiled for me. It was like a team shot of a certain point. It was just like, Jesus. So,
assholes.
Yeah, I'm really happy I went and saw it when I did, because, yeah, like you said, I'm very thankful that a lot of that stuff was genuine surprises to me and unexpected stuff that we're going to talk about right
now. Man, Deadpool Wolverine tops the North American box office this weekend with $205 million.
Wild.
I thought I saw 400 million.
That's probably world.
Okay.
I would imagine that's world. This article at MSN was the first one that popped up, and it said a bunch of them here saying 205. Biggest opening for an R-rated movie ever, which we kind of knew. Yeah, 205. It cost $200 million to produce. Fucking $200 million. Remember when people freaked out about
making a profit.
It's already making profit. Remember when people freaked out about Waterworld costing like $100 million, and now we got just random movies costing $200?
That's because Waterworld tanked.
Waterworld, I mean, it did tank, but when you watch that movie, you see where
still good.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just was curious what the box office was doing before we dived in. Let me find my tab. That is the script. So, spoilers. If you haven't seen it, don't want to be spoiled. Somehow you haven't been spoiled yet. We don't want to be the ones to do it, so get out of here. I want to talk first thing about the first thing that we saw, and it was so funny because everyone talked about Wolverine being in this movie and how they were going to handle the ending of Logan. And the fact that Logan died, which they joked about in the beginning of Deadpool 2, and now we're right back here, and Wade says, I bet you're wondering how we're going to deal with that without, I'm lost the word.
He's like tarnishing the legacy.
The legacy of Logan. We're not.
Yeah.
And that movie literally opens with him at Logan's grave in the woods, digging up his body.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious.
That was an impressive way to start.
It was a perfect way to start.
It was far enough already, him just digging up his body, thinking that he was still going to regenerate.
Right. Because
pulling out his corpse and using him as a sock puppet.
That was like the first joke of the movie. Just like, you guys in the trailers might have thought that the Logan from Logan is this Wolverine, but no, he's very dead.
Very dead. So in a way, they still honored that ending. That they didn't bring him back, because I thought for a second, like when he was sitting there talking to the adamantium skeleton, I was waiting to see if he was going to start regenerating or doing something, and he didn't. So I was like, huh. So they really did still respect that ending.
Yeah.
And that movie, I mean, he desecrated all over the meaning of it.
Well, because then the entire opening sequence, which is over in sync, bye, 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 and him doing all the dance moves, is him basically just using Logan's corpse as his weapon the entire time. Stabbing people with his adamantium bones and using his spine as like a whip. Like
the fact that they crafted that entire opening action sequence to the dance choreography of NSYNC's Bye 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 was just like perfect.
I'm thinking in my mind as I'm watching it, I was like, is that really Ryan Reynolds doing that, or is that some dancer they got and just put the costume on? Or did he really learn those dances?
It's dancer.
I'm sure it was a dancer. I'm sure it was a dancer. But at the same time, Ryan Reynolds is pretty devoted, so I could see him doing it. But yeah, I would put money. My money would probably go towards the dancer. But it just worked so well of just setting the tone of what we were about to get into with him digging up Logan's corpse and then using it, desecrating it.
Yeah. And it brings in, like, lets you know the TVA is involved in this movie right away.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones who are popping in and trying to take him in. One thing just outside of that, like they got creative with the credits again, like showing him over the like bones he's throwing and everything. The one thing that did worry me outside of the movie is when it said written by, there was 5 names. And I was like, oh no. Like whenever movies do that, it's like, oh no, too many chefs in the kitchen. Like, is this going to be rough? But I mean, I've already said I like this movie, so it ended up being fine. But I was like 5 writers, and Ryan Reynolds was one of them, and Zeb Wells was one of them, who's a comic book writer who I'm like kind of iffy on. I was like, oh God, not 5 writers. The dreaded 5-writer film.
That was like when I sat down to watch Wonder Woman 84, and I saw written by Jeff Johns, and I was like, this movie's gonna suck. And you know what? It did.
Yeah.
I was like, it was written by Jeff Johns and the director, Patricia.
I can't
remember her name.
Yeah.
And I saw the 2 of them wrote it, and that's not who wrote the first Wonder Woman, which was good. So I saw them. So yes, I can agree with you. Sometimes you see written by, you can go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And then randomly, you watch Halloween, and it's like written by Danny McBride, and you're like, what the fuck is this?
How's this a thing?
How is this a thing? And, the first one turned out okay.
How's Kenny Powers writing Mike Myers? I get it.
So then, as you said, TVA shows up. We get a giant thing, and we knew. And then they did a nice little. As we talked about the previous Deadpool movies, we had no linear storytelling, at least here in the beginning, and we jumped and got a Happy Hogan cameo. the first cameo, Happy
Talking
Hogan,
about-
as Wade was interviewing to be an Avenger on the Prime timeline. So that was kind of fun.
At first, were you guys kind of confused by? I wasn't thinking in my mind until this movie kind of got rolling a little bit that like he was separate, like the Fox universe. They separated it from the MCU, so like defined. So like him talking to John Favreau, Happy Hogan at the beginning, I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, where is he? What's happening? And then he like bounced back. I was like, at first, I was a little.
It was a
mixed
rough
up.
start with that. It was like a little bumbling until like maybe with like what a half hour, maybe 45 minutes in, and then things started to click a little better.
Yeah,
There's
once
something
it,
I noticed because like until the ball really got rolling, it was like, okay, wait, what's kind of, and then it kind of transitioned and smoothed itself out.
yeah, once they explain it a little later on when he's finally in the TVA and talking to the dude
Paradox.
from Succession, Paradox, right?
What was his name in
And he-
Succession?
No,
Don't know. Can't
Greg
think of
and
Earl. I don't fucking know.
My name is Earl.
Um,
Okay, just curious. That I was thinking about that during the movie. I was like, "What the hell's his name?" And I could not remember. Anyway, keep going. Or
No,
have I
yeah,
broken your brain?
once they finally, he kind of laid out what was happening. That, I mean, I know we're jumping a little bit, but like him letting Deadpool know that he's there to basically prune the Fox universe. Even though he doesn't call it the Fox universe, it's just like your universe, basically saying Logan was the linchpin keeping that thing together. Now that he's gone, it's gone. I'll save you, but no one else. And then I started finally getting it like, oh, okay, they're bringing him from there to the MCU in this way by explaining it as two different timelines, which started making more sense to me. But I was a little, like we just said, mixed up at first as to what was actually going on. Like, where is he? What's happening? What's going on?
When they threw Earth 616 on the screen, I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I didn't know that was the. I mean, I know they put the Prime timeline on there, so it kind of made sense. But yeah, I was sitting there going back and forth on trying to place it in my brain as to what was going on. So I can agree with that. That setup, and as you said, we kind of got, once that failed, we got to see him trying to be a used car salesman and being spied on by the TVA. And then, as you said, we're right back to where you were talking about Paradox. But that was where we got all our cameos from the Deadpool universe. We got Negasonic, we got Yokio, we got
love seeing Yoko.
Colossus, we got Dopinder hanging out there at the thing. So we got everybody but the big Cable, Domino, and what's that, JT Miller Weasel.
Well, yeah, he's not in it because
Cancel.
No,
he's
he's a
canceled.
liability.
He's a liability to have in this movie. And then obviously Cable, they kind of made a joke about it in there that he like didn't test well with
It was fun.
with audio. That was kind of funny. Also, I theorized to you guys that having him in this would be he's too close to Wolverine.
Yeah, whichever one of you
mannerisms.
last week called it, like, this seems like it's going to be a buddy cop movie. Nailed it. And yeah, you can't have another buddy in there. So
Right.
But I mean,
too
having
close.
him at a birthday party.
They could have.
that could have been some fun dialogue to have Cable at a birthday party eating a piece of cake or something. But Cable also wouldn't show up to fucking Deadpool's birthday party.
It's probably
That's
true.
So,
Domino might. I was disappointed we didn't get a little
Yeah.
Domino.
Oh, I
but,
was too.
it's like I get that they were just in there, but like I wanted more Defender. Yokio has more lines than Teenage Negasonic Warhead now. So that was kind of a letdown too. And like I get what they were doing, but I really didn't care for the relationship between him and his girlfriend now. I thought it was weird, and even if they weren't together anymore, I feel like she wouldn't be there calling him buddy. It was super weird. I thought that could have been changed or just taken out completely, or like, I don't know. I just didn't care for it at all.
I think
yeah, let's talk about the Vanessa of it a little bit. I'm sure that's where you were headed, Don.
Yeah, I was just gonna agree wholeheartedly. I think that was not done well. If you're gonna have them split up, explain it a little bit more. Don't just be like, they broke up. She
Yeah.
doesn't. She doesn't think he's the good guy. But for 2 movies, like that's all he's cared about. So all of a sudden they're just like not together now. And it's just kind of like swept under the rug. And the only explanation I can think of for why is that's probably the last time we ever see Vanessa, and we're gonna see a lot more of Deadpool in the future. So they may want him open to like have different relationships, be doing other stuff with other people, and not have like, oh, my girlfriend Vanessa back home. You know what I mean? But it was just so weirdly handled that it felt kind of out of place and just like kind of like we got to do something with this character. I guess we're not going to have her around much more. Let's just say they're not together and just forget about it. It just felt cheap.
Well, it's what they always do with sequels. You know, it's like you get them together at the end of the movie, and then it's like, well, we need to have them be broken up in the beginning of the next one so we can have motivation for the character and we can have this. And it always just feels like a lazy way, instead of saying, hey, we're together, and then tell stories based off of that. They're just like, well, let's break them up so then we can have Wade be sad, so we can have motivation for him to find out who he needs to be to try to win her back. And
that's been his motivation for all 3 movies, is her.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And now
he's dead in the
first
second
2.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He needs to save her. He needs to fix his face so she'll accept him, which is whatever for first one. Second one, she's dead. He needs to save her and bring her back. Third one, he needs to prove that he's a good person to get her back.
He needs to like do something bigger than
what
him.
He's been
so
doing.
it was like it was just weird, because in my head I'm keep thinking, so she wants him to save the world, because that's how he kind of took it from her. Like, I have to do something big. I have to be an Avenger. I have to save the world and show that I'm bigger for my girlfriend. And you're just like, I don't think she's the type of character who's going to be like, hey, go save the world or we're done.
Yeah, why did she suddenly change when their relationship's been based on like sex and how they get each other, and all of a sudden she just says, what does she say? You got to do something bigger than yourself, or be something better than yourself, or whatever.
She got domesticated.
He's like killing bad guys all the time and saving people. So
yeah,
right.
Dude's pretty great, but yeah, I don't know. I thought that was weird. And catching that scene, a glimpse of it in the previews, I was really looking forward to that scene more. And then when that scene happened, I was like, fucking scene kind of blew, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It was still good to see everybody, but I still wanted more of everyone.
Yeah, well, the underuse of all those characters that have made this franchise so far was like missing. Like that chemistry he had with all his strange relationships with his friends, his relationship with Colossus, his relationship with Dopinder, Blind Al, all of them is what have given the first 2 movies like so much charm to it. And I know they wanted to focus very heavily on Deadpool and Logan and their relationship in this film, but this is a Deadpool movie. And so by not having them in it, except for just kind of like very, very small cameo at the beginning and a little at the end, felt a little empty with just that part of the Deadpool movies. You associate him with that group of friends, so not using them enough kind of was like, that sucks.
And this fits into what we're talking about, so that's why I'm going to say it now, even though it kind of ties in with like the end and whatnot. But as we go into like what a Deadpool 4 would potentially look like, and his universe being saved, because he saved the Fox universe in this movie, which we'll, like I said, dive into details on that, but technically his universe was saved. So like, would a Deadpool 4 potentially be in his own universe where these people would be involved? Could you potentially make a Deadpool 4 that does look like Deadpool 1 and 2?
I guess you could. I think we think the end. Brother. I think them wanting to integrate him with the MCU is clear.
Yeah,
but now maybe they have it so he can kind of bounce between both.
Yeah,
or maybe
he could have his movie, and also he could be featured in something more.
Yeah, I mean, Avengers comes up and they want Deadpool involved in Avengers, and you grab him from his timeline and his multiverse, his universe, and you bring him over for an adventure over here. But if you have theoretically, if you have a Deadpool movie, if they do a Deadpool 4, then it realistically almost has to be contained in his universe, unless then you pluck him again for a solo adventure. But why would you do that? Like, it makes sense for him to come over to the prime timeline for Avengers duty, but not necessarily for just random adventures. I mean, they could keep his world alive. I mean, that was the whole point of the movie.
I think it's going to kind of be a wait and see because there's been no indication that they're going to do a Deadpool 4. It would make sense because it's a huge moneymaker. But
yeah, it made $205 million this weekend. So
yeah, I guarantee you we see him again before anything like that gets announced. Like, he'll be probably in someone else's movie, and he'll be in the Avengers films.
We got to know why Thor was crying.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
We skipped over that with the TVA.
It hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened yet, but they showed on a thing. That's the future, and Thor was crying over Wade Wilson, who was laying there with his mask ripped off, looked like he was dying. And the whole movie, Deadpool kept asking people, "Why was Thor crying? Why was Thor crying?"
Oh
and now you know that that's going to happen.
He woke up like 3 times, just like Thor.
Yeah,
just
every time he got knocked unconscious, he woke up saying Thor.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So that they did that because that's going to happen.
Right.
They were looking at the future. So in one of these Avengers movies coming up, we're going to get Thor, and I mean, we're going to get Thor and Deadpool in a scene together. In enough scenes that they develop a relationship enough that Thor is sad when Wade Wilson is dying. And you know how ridiculous that's going to be?
Yeah, it'll be cool.
But yeah, I agree that I would have liked to see his people being used more, and I really hope if we do get a Deadpool 4 that almost it is his cast versus an MCU adventure, which is kind of weird, and I don't think I would have said that until I watched this movie.
Really looking forward now thinking about it of like Thor and like Drax, their like lack of understanding sarcasm as much and taking everything for what it is would probably be really hilarious to see those scenes with Deadpool.
Yeah. I can agree. Spider-Man, yeah, let's throw all that. I mean, we can fantasy book forever. So, yes. But speaking of fantasy booking, we had an entire montage that was the multiverse search for Logan because Deadpool found out that Logan was his, what they call it, anchor being, and was ending his universe. So he said, I'm going to go find a Logan. And we got an entire montage of basically every Wolverine you would ever want to see, but never thought you'd see on the big screen in a montage in one place. And it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. This scene was cool. Especially for if you're familiar with Wolverine throughout the years in some comic books, because a lot of them were accurate to comic books that, like you just said, you would never see. Like, there was Age of Apocalypse Wolverine, there was Old Man Logan. Wolverine's first appearance in the comics is him fighting the Hulk. So even one of these was like him popping up and like having Hulk standing there in the back, like,
with the orange suit.
The orange suit, John Byrne Wolverine, like he made that suit, like the other iconic suit besides yellow and blue. He was in there, like Logan in Hell, but just a bunch of cool like nods to those who've read Wolverine comics, but just cool anyway. Just like seeing all the different variants. Like, they even made the joke of the one sitting at the bar and then he gets up and he's like super short because Wolverine is super short in the comics. So like the thing has always been like Hugh Jackman's too tall to play Wolverine, and people have said that for years.
Yeah,
because Wolverine is supposed to be shorter than everybody. So then finally having him, the coolest one, I don't know, to me was Henry Cavill. Yep. Just like that's the one that was the least expected. Cavalrine, just like that was like one of my first holy shit moments. Yeah. Like he's in this. Like,
well, that's like the most recent. Like, that was, as everyone's trying to fantasy book who is going to be Wolverine in the MCU, and Henry Cavill's name has popped up quite a few times as being like, that was a heavy rumor that they did, kind of like John Krasinski being Mr. Fantastic, and it was like, well, Henry Cavill being Wolverine, that sounds great, and they gave it to us.
He looked great as him too, man. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it could be interesting. Now I feel bad for all the people who think that that's who the Wolverine's going to be in the MCU.
Dude, I was going to ask you guys before you got into this, like, who is your favorite variant of Wolverine that they showed? And I was like, and there's only 2 answers: the short one or Cavill. And those are the 2 that you went to.
Yeah, I mean, those were the standouts. I did enjoy seeing the Weapon X with one hand. I'm pretty sure if I dig in that closet behind me that I have that toy. From that, I thought that was really cool. That was a deep cut that I wasn't expecting, and at that, yeah, the Logan montage was awesome until we got all the way to the one that we took the rest of this adventure on, which was the one that we got in the yellow suit, the finally X-Men 97 yellow suit, made it to the big screen. And as Deadpool said in that, it only took 20 years. And I remember that was something they made a joke about in the first X-Men movie about you'd rather have yellow spandex. And we finally got the yellow suit. And you know what? It didn't look as stupid as they thought it would 20 years ago.
That's awesome.
Well, we've all seen it for a while now in trailers, and I think it's cool to just finally have him in it, because Logan is not a character who would wear a bright yellow costume and blue, but that's just how they've always had him in the comics. Like, that's his superhero outfit.
Yeah.
And it's never fit right in the movies. I mean, they probably could have done it at some point, but they just chose not to. The focus was more on Hugh Jackman's face and him wearing street clothes or a Canadian flannel or a tank top, and he's just like Logan, but in this he's Wolverine.
Yeah.
So they finally had to do it, and yeah, I agree, he looked great. And I think the explanation for him wearing it made sense too.
Yeah.
Like when he was talking in his backstory, being like, I never wanted to wear this stupid thing, but Cyclops wanted me to, Jean wanted me to, my X-Men always wanted me to, and I never did. And he's basically saying I'm wearing it as like a tribute to them. It's all I have left of them. So I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense of why he would want to wear it, because for any other reason he would not want to wear it.
Yeah.
So I appreciated them being like not brushing that under the rug and just being like, he's just in it, just whatever, because it's cool looking. Like, make it make sense why he's wearing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they did. You know, him being the worst Wolverine in the multiverse, because basically he was because of him, his X-Men basically died. And the fact that he wasn't able to be there to help defend them, and then sounds like he went on a crazy murder rampage where he just murdered everybody, but somehow wasn't in jail.
Just murdered a bunch of humans, went berserk,
did a whole bunch of stuff. Berserker Wolverine was another version that we didn't get to see, but but then, and I think it's time we really need to talk about these cameos, because we jumped into the void after both Wolverine, Logan, and Deadpool got pruned by Paradox, and we jumped into the void, and the void was literally just pretty much the whole middle of this movie, and it was just Easter egg cameo, Easter egg cameo, Easter egg cameo, pretty much across the board. And it was kind of awesome, and it gave us our first Deadpool Wolverine fight up against the 20th Century Fox logo.
And Wade even kind of told you, breaking the fourth wall, he was like, get ready. This is what you've been waiting for this whole time. This is what everyone's been waiting for years, Deadpool and Wolverine. And like, even before the first cameo, that part, and they fought a couple times during this movie. There were a couple other standout fights with them, but man, he was right. That did not disappoint. I was so happy to be watching that.
Yeah.
Because just they've fought for years in the comic books. They're equally matched fighters. They both used adamantium. Usually, like, Deadpool's swords were made out of adamantium in this. They both have healing factors, so they can't really die, but they can just fuck each other up so bad because of that. So they really leaned into that, and just, I don't know, man. Of course, it was like a lot of CGI and stuff, but just done so cool. Like, I was just so happy to be watching Deadpool and Wolverine fight. I don't know. It's like a Dream Comics fight.
Yeah, and how good their fights looked. Maybe it's just me. I'm not trying to nitpick anything too much, but the rest of the fights compared to the opening fight sequence between him and the TVA, maybe it would just seem more CGI because he couldn't whip around any practical Wolverine spines during that fight, but the other fights seemed so much better than that opening sequence, the bye one, which was still fun. But the rest of the fights, I wasn't thinking, oh, this looks super CGI. Where that first one, I was kind of like, oh, okay. And maybe it's because it was the credit sequence and there was slow motion bones going by with people's names on them. But the rest of the fights were great. I mean, watching Wolverine's claws through Deadpool as Deadpool's shooting him in his ribcage and they're both screaming, it was just like, this is awesome.
No, even when that fight started and Wolverine started like bear running, like on his hands and feet,
Yeah.
like I mean, and that was clearly CGI, but that looked awesome. Like we
It looked
never
awesome.
seen that Wolverine do like really come like an animal. You know, we've seen him aggressive, but I mean, he was running on his hands to get to him, and like that was awesome. Like I was like, oh shit, what's about to happen? And then the rest happened to me, and I loved it.
Yeah, and Deadpool going back and forth between like blades or his swords and his guns and like dodging the claws and getting stabbed, and both of them are getting stabbed, and like it was just fucking cool.
The fact that he said every time throughout this movie, baby knife.
Right?
That got me every time. He
That
was
was
baby
fun.
knife and he'd stab someone with the smallest knife, and he did it like multiple times in this movie. He would, but he couldn't stab anyone with that knife without saying baby knife.
Oh.
Baby knife. He would stab someone. It always got me. I did enjoy that. Okay, first real cameo that we got in this movie was Chris Evans. Chris Evans jumped down. What's his face? Deadpool was super excited. Talked about Cap, and he was talking to Logan about Cap and how excited. We saw in the TVA earlier how excited he was to see Cap, and he's standing and saluting him as he's looking through the prime timeline. And then Cap is in front of him in the void, and he's super excited. And Cap's getting ready to work up when the whole Mad Max brigade comes through. And he goes, Deadpool goes, he's about to say it. He's about to say it. And Deadpool yells, Avengers Assemble. And Chris Evans yells, Flame on, and turns into Chris Evans, not Fantastic Four, Human Torch in the Fantastic Four.
Torch.
But they went back Fox, and that was amazing. That I did not think for a second that was Johnny Storm.
Neither, I didn't either. That's not, and I didn't know who I thought it was. But the build up to he's gonna say it. He's gonna say it. I'm like, he's not gonna fucking say it. He's gonna be. It's something else. And then when that happened, I was like, how did I not know that they were gonna do that?
Yeah,
that was perfect. That was great.
I don't know about you guys' theater experience. I know we all talked about how like there were levels to participation of the audience. But when that character dropped down, he was wearing a hood for the first minute, and then we flipped it back and it's Chris Evans. My theater went crazy.
Yeah.
Like everybody was so happy, like, oh my God, people clapping and like cheering. And I was like, just kind of in shock because I thought this man would never be in another Marvel movie ever again. This is kind of crazy. But then the joke of Deadpool saying Avengers Assemble and being cut off by him saying Flame on, and then he goes up in the sky and it's Johnny Storm. I was happy, but I don't think anybody else got it. And I want to be like, what's wrong with all of you? This is amazing what they've just done.
Yeah.
But I feel like some people had no idea, didn't know. Maybe it's an age thing, just haven't seen the Fantastic Four movies from like 20 years ago. But to me, that shit was hilariously done. And it kind of showed you right away they're focusing on, like Chris said at the beginning, this being a love letter to the Fox superhero universe. So we're going to use our Fox characters. So yeah, man, it was a cool thing. I'm glad it wasn't spoiled for me ahead of time, like we've kind of talked about, because that's a big one. But
that would have been huge. That would have sucked so much.
Yeah, but that was great moment in the film.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I was glad that it went longer than I expected it to. Like when Pyro, which was, once again, we talk about the Mad Max Brigade coming through. If you watch any of those old X-Men movies, they got the same actor to be Pyro, who was in X2.
Really?
They got the same, I forgot the dude's name, but the guy who played Sabretooth in the original X-Men movie was there in the beginning to be Sabretooth. So you're looking at almost everybody. Ray, what's his face, was Toad. Ray Park.
Yep.
Is that his name? Basically every character that you saw was in a Fox X-Men movie at some point as a random mutant that was either in the background or had points. But Pyro was in X2, and just seeing all of that was kind of crazy in its own right. But then Johnny Storm came and kind of stole the thunder. But then when Pyro took all of his flame and he fell, I thought he was dead. So the fact that he wasn't dead and we actually got more with him, I was like, oh my God, is he going to go on this adventure with them? clearly didn't last. But
they kept him around a little longer than you thought they might. Like it wasn't
100%.
like the Doctor Strange cameos where those people were dead immediately.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that at all because that was done poorly. This was done very well. These characters necessarily, I felt they gave every cameo in this movie a great, like, enough time to shine, more than they needed to, more than they had to, more than in some cases they maybe should have. But I really thought they did a great job with that. But as we dug deeper into the void, that was where we met Cassandra Nova, Charles Xavier's twin sister, who was, I guess, I don't know much about Cassandra Nova outside of what this movie said.
She hasn't been used too much, but she is a comics character. Charles Xavier does have a twin, like a strange twin who has the same telepathic powers he does. So kind of a deep cut villain. But yeah, I thought she was okay in this. Like we've kind of talked about, villains in MCU movies are sometimes hit or miss. They're either like really good or just kind of like meh, and you forget about them. She was all right, like in between to me, kind of. But just cool. Made sense for what they were trying to do.
Yeah, that she would be in the void and that she would own the void and be happy to be in the void and have a deal with the TVA to stay in the void. I want to see how many times I can say void. Void. It worked out. I thought she was creepy in the way in which she would stick her hand in people.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, that was strange. It gave me like a back of my eye headache every time her finger was coming out of people's eyes. I was like, ouch.
Especially when she did it to Paradox at the end. I thought that actually looked pretty good effect-wise. You know, like Deadpool, he had a mask, so you're seeing it. Logan, she really only stuck her finger in there. But Paradox, she was all up in his head.
Yeah, watching his eyes move around. Yeah.
Like, we get it,
but she kept doing it. But yeah, I thought she had like I said, I was fine with what she did and who she was. I did, like I said, don't know much about her, but I was excited for her just to see all of the cameos and everything that they were pulling out of the void. All right, let's dive into our Deadpool and Wolverine discussion, but before we do, I've got something awesome to share that's been my secret weapon for staying sharp and focused, especially when diving into the chaotic world of our favorite mutants. It's this incredible little productivity shot called Magic Mind. Now, why Magic Mind, you might ask? Well, imagine having Deadpool's quick wit and Wolverine's relentless focus all packed into a tiny, tiny shot. Well, that's what Magic Mind does for me. It's loaded with natural ingredients like matcha, lion's mane, and Indian ginseng. These not only give me a smooth, steady boost of energy, but they also help reduce stress and improve focus. Perfect for those long sessions of dissecting comic lore and movie details, which you know we all do, and you can tell from the length of this podcast. And because you're listening to this podcast, you get an exclusive deal for 1 week only. You can try Magic Mind for free. Just go to magicmind.com/raisethegeektrial and use the code raisethegeektrial. You'll get a trial pack of 3 bottles, and you only have to cover the shipping cost. Plus, you can cancel your subscription anytime within the first month. If it's not for you, no questions asked. Honestly, having Magic Mind delivered to my door every month feels like having Wolverine's healing factor for my brain. No more running out of energy boosters or forgetting to buy them. And if you decide to stick with it, there's some great subscription options that save you money. You can choose between a 15-bottle or 30-bottle cases depending on your needs, and they come with free shipping and a money-back guarantee. So give it a shot, literally. Head on over to magicmind.com/raisethegeektrial. Use the code raisethegeektrial and let me know what you think. Remember, this exclusive offer is only good for 1 week, so don't miss out. Once again, that code is raisethegeektrial. Everything's down in the description below. Links, code. Make sure you go check that out and hit us up on social media and let us know what you think about Magic Mind. So we talked about Chris Evans and his cameo as the Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, which was amazing. But you know what? It wasn't the only cameo that we got in the void, because once Deadpool and Wolverine escaped from Cassandra after their first encounter, which, I mean, was anyone else disappointed that Vinnie Jones wasn't the Juggernaut?
So I had forgot he was until you guys told it to me last time when we were recording for part 1 or 2. But yeah, I thought for sure when I saw that for a second, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to have him. And it was like, oh no, it's not him.
They had the same suit.
Missed opportunity.
I think I'm sure they probably tried to get him, and he probably declined. And they only continued to use him because Juggernaut's helmet became such a vital part of what they were going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little disappointing. I think Deadpool even made a joke about it, though, like saying, like, oh, there's some new guy playing Juggernaut down there or something.
See, but I thought that, I mean, personally, I heard him say that joke, but I thought it was because there was a Juggernaut in Deadpool 2. So I just thought he was connecting that.
Maybe.
But yeah,
Maybe
you could be more
just had
accurate.
a new Juggernaut every time, you know?
Mhm.
I can see that. Just curious. But then as they escaped, that was when we ran into Nice Pool and Dog Pool.
Dogpool's one of the best parts of the movie, man. Dude, Jess was sitting next to me as we're watching this in the theater, and I felt her shaking, and I looked, and she's just cracking up that entire time because that damn dog.
Because he's
great.
hilarious looking.
Yeah, the dog's hilarious looking, and Ryan Reynolds and that dog's interactions just with, and like normally like gross tongue stuff with dogs, I'm just like, ugh, but that I was cracking up the whole time too. I'm like, it's hilarious.
Because he did it so casually.
Oh yeah, he loved it.
And
Loved every second.
Dogs don't have scripts, so you couldn't tell that dog to do that.
Yeah.
That dog just did it. And I bet you Ryan Reynolds, when they were filming, was like, no, just keep it rolling. Keep going.
Keep going.
Keep this going.
Gold. This is gold. Yeah.
And like, Nice Pool was funny, but obviously just a way to get Ryan Reynolds' real face into this movie.
Yeah.
Because every other movie, they sneak it in, like in flashbacks, and obviously Deadpool 1, he was way before the accident for a while. But yeah, that's how you get his handsome face in this.
His handsome face and his and like, I know that Deadpool's just constantly breaking the fourth wall, but I had an audible chuckle at Nice Pool's fourth wall break when he just said the proposal. Like, it was
very awkwardly.
It was so awkward, and he just like, oh, he doesn't get how this works, but that's really funny. Okay,
Yeah, that was good.
Then he awkwardly stood there for a second.
Yeah.
But then this honestly led into one of my favorite action sequences of this entire movie, which was Deadpool and Wolverine. Outside of Deadpool doing little Spider-Man things, Deadpool and Logan fighting in the car. And one thing this scene gave me is something that I'm going to always say for the rest of my life, which is educated wish. I'm going to say that for the rest of my life. I'm going to say, I just gave an educated wish. The phrase educated guess is completely out of my vocabulary now. It will forever be educated wish, which I loved. But just that fight sequence in the car was awesome to me. I enjoyed all of the choreography. I enjoyed the fact that the first time they hit his face to the radio, it was The Greatest Showman playing.
I didn't catch that. That's awesome.
Yeah, the first song was the opening notes of The Greatest Showman, and then they hit it again and they jumped to a couple other songs.
Hilarious.
Just some of those, like I said, those meta jokes that were in there, but then just that whole action sequence of them in that tight confines and just once again ripping each other to shreds was just so good.
Yeah, and even preceding that, which I agree, a great fight sequence, but even before that, what led into the fight was Logan being fed up with Deadpool's shit finally, and he gave like his long, at least 2-minute long speech about why he's a piece of shit and he's like the worst person in the world and I hate you. And that was like a kind of a strong scene from Hugh Jackman. Like, he was acting his ass off for that.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, this is great. And Deadpool's quiet the whole time, and he usually has something to say, and he's just sitting there listening and like looking sad and listening and whatever, and like someone's finally telling him what a piece of shit he is, and then his only response at the end was, I'm gonna fight you now. And I was just like,
oh shit,
that's what Deadpool would do.
That's a whole next level there. That's a whole next level.
So that was perfect scene.
I loved all of that. And then they got kidnapped and taken to a place with booze for Logan to drink. And then we started getting the cameos. We got a train of cameos that came 1, 2, 3, 4, and it was all unexpected to me. But we first got Elektra. Jennifer Garner shows up as Elektra, which I just started laughing. I was like, oh my God.
I was confused at first. Like, I knew there was going to be cameos, but like, I was like, wait, is that actually her? Is that Jennifer? Oh, it is. It is Jennifer Garner.
Yeah.
That's the only one I knew because her casting was announced previously.
Okay. See, I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
I knew I forgot until she walked in. I was like, oh yeah, they did say she's going to be Elektra, because we knew this was like very multiversal, but it was still cool to see her come in.
And then no matter what you felt about that one, when fucking Wesley Snipes walked in as Blade, like that, I would have never imagined. Like, if you would have, gave me a million guesses. I don't think I would have ever guessed that Wesley Snipes as Blade was going to walk into this movie.
I think that was
No.
the biggest surprise.
That was a huge surprise.
Yeah.
I had no idea Wesley Snipes even made movies anymore, let
Yes.
alone was going to show up in an MCU movie in 2024 as Blade, who he hasn't been since, what, 98?
It was awesome.
That shit was crazy. My theater lost it on that one too.
Did they?
A good number of people who kind of understood. I feel like some people probably didn't understand, or who don't know Blade or Wesley Snipes at all.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a super cool moment, and even cooler. Like, I think Ryan Reynolds or Deadpool made the joke about it, like, "Oh, you don't like me," because like there's always been rumors that those two didn't get along on the set of Blade Trinity.
Oh shit! I completely forgot Ryan Reynolds was in Blade Trinity.
Yeah, there was like rumors that they did not get along and they didn't like each other. So him being like, "You're in my movie," like, I thought we didn't like each other or some shit like that. It was like, oh man, that's so good. That's so meta hilarious.
God, you just broke me. Like, I completely forgot Ryan Reynolds was in that movie. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
God, that makes so much sense and is so much better now.
Yeah, it was good.
Man. And then they topped it with fucking Channing Tatum walking in his Gambit. Like, that was a deep cut if I've ever seen one. I think, as Don said when our texting when we were talking about the deepest of cuts that this movie was able to produce, I think, was Channing Tatum walking in his Gambit.
Yeah. That's the one that was ruined for me.
Oh no.
3 hours before I saw the movie, I was dumb enough to be scrolling through Reels or something, and there was no preface to it. As I scrolled, it was already playing, and it's Channing Tatum as Gambit, and just the title said, "Why'd they do my boy Channing like this?" And I was like, "No!" And just
oh man,
scrolled up, and I was just like, "Well,
yeah."
Why would they do their boy Channing like that? That's what he's been trying to do for like 20 years. He's been trying. They did a whole Entertainment Weekly spread when Fox wanted to launch the X-Men Fantastic Four universe, and Channing Tatum sitting there as Gambit, ready to go, and they never made his movie.
I don't know if whoever made the post got the fact that, like, he was over the top with the voice a little bit for comedic reasons, and I don't know if that's what I didn't get to watch the full reel because I was mad and didn't want anything else spoiled for me. But yeah, that's the one that was spoiled for me, and I'm like, I've been dodging this.
Yeah,
and it's just like, man, it's been what I saw it 36 hours after it got released, and you know what I mean. But
yeah, people are jerks. Spoilers suck. But cool nonetheless. Like, definitely a surprise I was not expecting. Or anybody. Nobody knew that they were going to have that in this movie. And like Chris said, Channing Tatum's been trying to be Gambit since X3. I think he wanted to be Gambit in X3, and it didn't work out. Then they were going to have him be his own solo film, and stuff kept falling apart. Different writers, different directors.
So, I think he either filmed or was supposed to be in X-Men Apocalypse as an introduction to his character, and it got cut. And then it was supposed to lead into his solo film. So like you said, X3, X-Men Apocalypse, like, it was a long time of him trying to be, and included like being promotional. He was in marketing material as an upcoming feature and never got it. So the fact that he finally got it was pretty cool. Once again, I don't expect a lot of people to fully catch that one unless you really pay attention to like behind the scenes stuff. But that was very unexpected. I died. What'd you say, Don? Someone yelled in your theater?
Somebody in my theater when he walked in was just like, "Finally!"
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was super happy about it. But like I said, I don't think everybody got it, but it was just super, super cool. Did they
know any of this stuff? It's still fun for people that just like, oh, cool, Channing Tatum's in this. Like, it's still fine. A cameo is a cameo.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, I'll have to look it up later why that is vital to what's going on. You know, did he ham up the Cajun Louisiana accent? Yes, for comedic reasons, so Deadpool could make fun of him. Did they make his suit a little over the top and, like, you know, just look super Gambit? Is that exactly what he would have looked like in his own movie? Probably not. They made him look like super comic book cartoon Gambit.
Yeah, they made him look like what he would have looked like if he would have got the movie 10 years ago, 15
maybe
years ago.
15 years ago, yes.
Right, right.
Today, probably not.
So yeah, that just kind of capped off all three of those huge cameos. Well, then also one more. We had X-23 come in.
Laura.
Daphne Keane came in. And I guess that one was in the final trailer, which I didn't see. So people did kind of know about that one, but I didn't know. So it was cool to see her come back. She's a little older now. We just saw her in The Acolyte. She was in The Acolyte. So she's kind of back on the scene a little bit. Hopefully, maybe they'll use her in the future for things. I think she's a young actress who could like carry on the Wolverine mantle if you don't want to keep using Hugh Jackman, who's like old. But
as Deadpool kept telling him, till you're 90.
Right, until you're 90.
He did that about 3 times. He kept whispering to his ear, till you're 90, Disney's going to use you. And that made me laugh every time, too.
The coolest part about all these cameos is all these characters, which, like we've said, is all just more adding into this love letter for Fox superhero movies over the years. They all kind of got their moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even in that, so the whole group goes to fight the villains at the Void, and they all got a moment in that fight where you got to see them kind of do their thing. Like Gambit throwing cards around, flipping around with his staff that's empowered with his kinetic energy, and Blade shooting the hell out of people and doing his thing, and Elektra doing her thing. Like, it was just fucking cool. Like, I may never see Gambit on screen again, but I am for a second in this Deadpool movie.
Seeing him X-23 chopping up Juggernaut's head.
And like slicing his Achilles tendons. Like, oh yeah, why hasn't someone thought of that before?
That was a wild scene. I'll say afterwards, Jess and I were walking out where we were driving home, and she's like, I'm just gonna say there was a missed opportunity that when Blade was fighting on screen, that song from the first Blade, that dance fight song that always played, she's like, they should have played that for that fight scene. I'm like, you know what? You're right.
Like
he did do the throw the thing in the circle and it came back to him. He did do that.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? You're right. That would have been really fun.
God, Blade was a good movie, man.
It was.
Blade was a really good movie. Anyway, but what I found funny, I kept waiting because everybody was over the top. Like everybody, I mean, Gambit was blowing people up with the cards. Blade was just stabbing people and doing all kinds of shit. X-23 was destroying people, and I kept waiting for Jennifer Garner, and hers was so tame. She was like, ugh. She had these little baby stabs to people. It was so funny that she was so like PG-13 in the action in the middle of a very R-rated battle. I just found that funny to me because usually Jennifer Garner wouldn't find herself in an R-rated action sequence. So I found it funny that they kept her PG-13.
Sure. Contract.
I'm sure it was. Probably. She was probably like, I'm not going to stab someone in the face with my sai.
She's like, I make Citibank commercials. I can't be doing too much crazy shit.
I have a farm. I need to make sure
I did really enjoy the fact that when they said Daredevil was dead, because I kept waiting for Ben Affleck to walk in as Daredevil. I did kind of think, and they said Daredevil's dead, and Deadpool looked at Jennifer Garner and said, sorry about that. And she goes, eh. And she shrugged, and that made me laugh, and that's such a deep, once again, meta humor of going back to her being married to Ben Affleck.
Yeah, she doesn't care.
She doesn't care. It was, it's my ex-husband, whatever. And that was funny. That was a good one.
The other joke in there that involved Blade when they're all like driving around, where Deadpool said something like, which one are you talking about? There's been so many of them. I don't know which character he was referring to. I forget now. But then they had Wesley Snipes say, but there's only been one Blade, or there's only ever going to be one Blade. And like then Deadpool looked at the camera because the new Blade movie has been in such production hell for years, and like that's kind of a shot at that and Mahershala Ali a little bit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, and shots fired there on Blade.
It's funny because it almost works as a double joke, because it's Wesley Snipes saying there'll only be one Blade because as of right now there only has been one. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool looking at the camera going, will there? Mm-hmm. But if there never makes another Blade movie, then it still works. But if they do make, then it's him looking at the camera going, we know he's wrong. So I was like, that joke almost like will be always perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
Speaking of meta humor, I just want to say it before I forget. Like, this movie took a lot of shots at Fox and 20th Century Fox as a company, of course, because they dropped the ball with certain things and whatever. He's happy to be still making movies as Deadpool. Disney picked it up. But like the shots he kept taking at the MCU currently, like being like talking to whoever other character, being like, "Oh yeah, you're happy to be in the MCU. You're coming in at kind of a downtime right now," and just being like, "Yeah, these latest movies, even though it's been miss after miss after miss," I was like, "Oh my God, he's like
Can he really do this?
the blurring of the lines between reality and film are being crossed by this man."
Oh yeah.
I appreciate it.
I like the fact that they're willing to joke about it. That means they know it's true. I mean, if they were really like being like, no, we put out quality cinema.
Yeah, it's a good look for them to be able to laugh at themselves and say, yeah, we know we screwed up. This is our way of making it up, or at least admitting that we did.
And I think we talked about it last night too, to a degree, is it's like once you start down a path with movies and you have all these things in production, you're kind of at their mercy. You know, it's like you really can't stop or make changes. Until they had that writer strike where they could delay things and really start to make changes, they really were kind of like on the roller coaster and it was already left the gate. So now it's like you can look back and say, yeah, some of those probably weren't wise decisions, the way we handled this, that, or the other. So I think the fact that they're willing to joke about it is awesome. But yeah, I agree. It's just kind of cringeworthy. You're like, are they supposed to say that?
Right?
Are they going to be mad? Is Kevin Feige going to be mad that he's making fun of the movies?
Like, I'm sure he saw it and was laughing nervously, like, ha ha ha, he's right. I've sucked for a while. And like, these guys,
these motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was definitely MCU bashing was definitely a part of the meta humor that took place in this movie.
For sure.
So after we left the void, we had the Battle of the Deadpools and a montage, not even a montage, but a needle drop, as Tony, I know, laughed that I said needle drop last week, but a needle drop of Madonna's Like a Prayer as they walked, which I know they showed this in the trailer, but watching it in the movie was still amazing. Well, I guess this was after Nice Pool got shot and realized he couldn't be regenerated. You can't regenerate. I do love the fact
I was supposed to know?
I do love the fact that Logan, like Deadpool, kept getting people killed in this movie. Because I mean, I guess we didn't talk about how Chris Evans got killed. This movie, there's too much. This episode's going to be like 3 hours long. I was trying to break down this whole fucking movie. But Deadpool kept getting people killed in this movie, and Logan kept going, why are you doing this?
And just like looking at him with disgust, holding Nice Pool's body all bleeding out. He's like, you really are a piece of shit. Like, that's what his face said.
Yeah, like, what are you doing, man? So we did forget about Nice Pool getting shot and then brought back across to get used as a human shield to go to a hot dog stand that may have first aid kits.
Stupid.
All hot dog stands have first aid kits. What? So that was funny. But then we got the Madonna Like a Prayer, which then basically took us all the way through to the end of this movie, was Madonna Like a Prayer. And leading to the giant Deadpool battle. What do you think of all the Deadpools? Just about pretty much every version of a Deadpool there could be ended up in this movie?
Yeah. I mean, they kind of hinted at it earlier that there was a horde of Deadpools in the void, and I guess they kind of waited to bring them into this last scene. We kind of talked about it earlier. It felt maybe pacing weird that it should have been earlier, but I get why they did it, because they wanted it for this scene of them teaming up, Logan finally putting on the cowl, the mask, which is its own thing.
Oh, cool.
What we've all been kind of waiting for. They've been hiding it.
I never knew. I had no idea he was going to do that. I saw him reach for a mask and I got goosebumps. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Because along with the costume missing for years and years and years, the cowl and mask has also been missing. They never used it. They hinted at it in some movie before in like a case. They showed like, I think he could be wearing this.
Yeah.
But he's never worn it. So them having that in this was like fan service, fanboy dream come true to finally see Wolverine in his full outfit. Did it look a little strange at times? Maybe. Because you're just so used to Hugh Jackman not having it and being just Hugh Jackman and Wolverine. But him wearing it, and then that scene starts where it's like a one shot, one pan kind of a thing of them just killing the shit out of all these Deadpools. It was just so freaking cool to see him in that fucking people up. And I could not take my eyes off him. I told you guys I have to rewatch that scene again because I was just watching him.
Yeah.
The whole time. Yeah.
Deadpool's doing stuff, I'm sure, that are cool and funny too, but also I was losing him in the crowd of all the Deadpools. But just watching Wolverine like stab the shit out of people, and oh my God, love that scene. Like that along with the car scene and their first fight in front of the 20th Century Fox logo is like 3 just awesome fights in this movie. Yeah, I don't know. Loved it.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great fight scene. Super cool to see him put the mask on for the first time. And yeah, as soon as he put it on and they both ran in, it was just game on. But yeah, same thing, man. I don't know where Deadpool was.
Right.
I'm following Yellow and Blue, and I'm just watching all his action.
I kind of went back. I did go back and forth a little bit, but yeah, I agree.
I tried to, but I just kept getting drawn back to Wolverine. The one part I do remember is at the very end, they get to that baby Deadpool, and he like says a goo goo gaga, and I can't Ryan Reynolds say, "What the fuck did you say?" or "Who the fuck are you?" Or
yeah,
I was just like, "Oh," it's like that got me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. As he laughed as all the Deadpools regenerated themselves.
Yeah, and then
which I think I read that was Ryan Reynolds' real kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Part of me was wondering. I was like, "Is that Blake Lively?"
It was.
Was it? Okay, that's what I assumed.
I didn't know. I know that was a big thing. Like I was even talking with my neighbor on Friday, and he was like, "I just want to know who Lady Deadpool is." So I mean, and then that was always a thing. I remember hearing rumors that like Taylor Swift was Lady Deadpool. So I kept waiting for like a mask to get pulled off to say, but they never did it. And then I waited till the credits to see who Lady Deadpool was, just because I didn't recognize her voice.
Yeah, I think they showed restraint by not taking her mask off because they could have just for like another cheap, just like a cameo, but they never did. But you go back and look and be like, oh, his real life wife. Okay, cool, fun.
Well, and he did make a joke about that when he said he has an extra bone in his body when he watches Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. He made a couple jokes about her in that movie.
A couple, yeah.
But then, yeah, and just like about every cameo in this movie that stayed a lot longer than I expected it to, Wolverine kept his mask on longer than I expected him to. I thought once that fight was over, he'd take it off. And nope, he kind of wore it pretty much to the end of the movie.
Yeah. Before we get to the end, I want to finish up on that fight where the Deadpools regenerate, and, you know, we know they're not going to lose, but it looks like, oh, shit, they're going to have to keep fighting these guys again. What's going to happen? All the Deadpools are back up, and who comes in to save the day? Peter.
Peter. Out of all the Deadpool friends from Deadpool 1 and 2, tell me why Peter was used more than Dopinder.
Yeah.
Or
God.
Colossus.
If Dopinder would have came in, that would have been hilarious.
Like every Deadpool has a Dopinder. We love Dopinder. But no, they chose Peter, which okay, they made their choice, but I was just like, there's a lot of Peter in this movie.
There was a lot of Peter.
I like Peter. He was fine.
Yeah.
I can give you it. I didn't mind it. It made me laugh.
Yeah. It was fun.
As you said, I wish that whole battle would have took place in the void when Nicepool first showed up and not thrown off the pacing, but I still enjoyed it.
They wanted it for like their big final action piece because it was like the most epic of all of them. So I get it, but yeah, I feel you.
But it was like they came back to the timeline. They got out. They escaped the void to then chase down Cassandra or to stop Paradox. I think they were there at first to stop Paradox from setting off and destroying the timeline with the time grabber or whatever the machine was called.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was what I was kind of invested in. So then all of a sudden I have this giant delay of like 15 minutes of the whole Deadpool battle. It was just kind of like, get to Paradox. He's chopping up your timeline, man. But we got to that. Yeah. We got there, and we had Nova come out of the void, break the thing with the TVA. She came out of the void and decided, you know what, I'm going to prune some timelines, and decided to do that. So we had Logan and Deadpool need to team up to stop her machine from working, I guess. And that was when we got, which was a great moment in this thing, was when they were holding those straps and Hugh Jackman's shirt just exploded. And it was the first time he was shirtless in that whole movie, and his shirt exploded, which he looked funny. That was when the mask looked funny. Was when he was still wearing the mask, but his shirt blew up. And all his like CGI, like, I mean, he was still jacked, but you could tell in that scene they threw a little bit of extra pepper on that.
Maybe.
I mean, he was still jacked, but there was a little bit of extra going on with the rippling.
You were really studying those abs.
Moment too. When
I mean, it was all up in the screen. I saw this movie in AVX. It was huge.
Huge
Jackman.
Yeah,
huge Jackman.
It was a really good scene too, where they have their little last back and forth. Okay, you're gonna do it. Deadpool decides to play the hero card and take his place. And then they end up having to join together. It was awesome when he showed up to finish the link between the two things. I was really excited about that. Whether you think that that's what's going to happen or not, he's got to reach it. He can't reach it. How's he going to reach it? But when it happened, I was still just like, yes.
No, it still felt great. I knew that was what was coming, but when it happened, I was just like, yeah. I was feeling it, emotionally feeling it. The whole end of this movie. I was feeling it emotionally, like all the way from like there to the end. I was just sitting there like, I am invested in this movie. And that's why no matter what we say about where it ranks or whatnot, this movie was great.
Yeah. Well, and just to back up a little bit, just to like finish that part about his shirt popping off, the reason they did that was like them finishing a joke. Like when Deadpool's leaning over and looking like how ripped he is they're finishing the joke from earlier that he said like he can't be shirtless anymore because he's too old.
Yeah.
But then being like surprised that like, oh shit, he's still jacked. So nice little finish there.
Jacked man.
He's a huge jacked man.
Yeah. It's crazy how that his name perfectly encapsulates who he is.
All right.
Stupid huge Jackman making us all regular men look inferior.
It's true.
He's Australian. He's all hot. Like, come on. Not fair for the rest of us.
50 years old. Come on.
50. I think he's older.
Yeah.
50 years old. He looks better than me. This isn't fair. Life is not fair, people.
We don't all get to be Hugh Jackman, Chris.
We don't all get to be huge Jackman. So yeah, we got, I mean, kind of the happy ending. Cassandra gets demolished, I guess. She poofed away, right?
Yeah, she like vaporized or something.
She's gone.
She gone. And Deadpool and Wolverine survived. Wolverine got to walk out with no shirt on with his greasy boobs, and everybody was drooling after him, as should be. That's the right way of the world.
I think one of the like good scenes, they were sitting on that bench at the end, kind of saying goodbye to each other.
After they said, "Let's go get shawarma," the Avengers invented shawarma.
Yeah, that was cool. But them just talking a little bit, like kind of finishing up their adventure together, and they said something like, Deadpool said, I'll see you around," and then Logan was like, a little pause, and he said, "Probably not." And just that's meaning like their characters might not ever see each other again, but I think that's also Hugh Jackman being like, this is really my last one. Like, I'm not doing another one of these, I don't think, even though I know there's rumors of him being one of the people in Secret Wars, but we'll see. Like, he may have time to think about it.
But then they followed that up with him going home to his birthday party.
True.
They followed it up with him staying involved. Like, he didn't just walk right off into the sunset.
But we also had Domino and Cable hanging around at the end of Deadpool 2, and they weren't around. So if we never see Hugh Jackman again, I won't be surprised. If we do, cool, let's do it. But
I'd watch another buddy movie with these two anytime. Like, you make these for another 10 years, and I'd be happy with it.
This movie is probably going to make $1 billion in about the next week.
Crazy.
I mean, if you're talking worldwide, 400 million just in this weekend. By next weekend, after all the talk comes out, they're going to be at $1 billion in like 10 days. They're going to try to get Hugh Jackman to be in another movie like tomorrow.
And they did ask, I saw something, they asked Kevin Feige if there's any immediate plans to cast a new Wolverine, and he was like, no. So, I mean, who knows? Money talks, but I thought it was you could interpret it that way of him being like, probably not, meaning like,
Yeah.
you may never see me do this again, which is,
I mean, it makes sense. He's been doing it
yeah,
longer than anybody. I mean, there's not another comic book or really actor character. I mean, you can go across any genre, any character across movies. You know, there hasn't been anybody's been James Bond as long. There's no one that's been Jason Bourne as long. There's no one that's been, you know, like maybe Jason Bourne.
well, when did the first X-Men come out?
2000.
He's been playing Wolverine for 23, 24 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's a long time to be
It's a
playing.
long time. Like I said, I don't think there's another another actor that's been playing the same character longer.
Yeah.
Maybe Mr. Bean.
Come on.
I think Chris is right.
What?
Sorry. I was trying to think. You got anybody else?
Maybe Mr. Bean. Yeah, maybe Mr. Bean. I can say that's probably true. Probably Mr. Bean.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't know anyone that has. So maybe she needs to beat Mr. Bean's record. What do you think? Should we try to bring this back?
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sure there's not very many people that are still with us, so it's okay. If you're with us, you just got a treat. Now, as we kind of wrap up this movie, we kind of brought back, obviously X-23, Laura came out of the void. Logan stayed in the Fox timeline. We're setting up, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning of this episode way back when, that, like, if we do a Deadpool 4, clearly Deadpool's going to be in one of these Avengers movies. Because we got to see Thor cry. Unless they're doing a Thor 5, and I don't know anything about a Thor 5. And after Thor 4, I don't want to see a Thor 5. So it's got to be an Avengers movie. So we're going to see Deadpool again in the MCU. But do you really think Deadpool 4? I mean, that's got to be kind of in his own. Are we going to see more Vanessa? Did we already talk full in detail about this and we don't need to do it again?
We kind of did. I think there will be another Deadpool movie because
why not?
I mean, why not? It's making a ton of money. It's a popular character. So I think there will be one. What it will consist of, who knows? I think it won't come for a while. They got a lot of stuff to get to first. We'll see him again in Avengers.
I thought of a better question.
Okay, hit us with it.
How do you do Deadpool in an Avengers movie that's rated PG-13? Like, we literally watched Deadpool murder dozens of TVA agents. Like, we never saw no one else straight up murder TVA agents and get claws stuck in two at one time. How do we do Deadpool? Do they do audible beeps when he swears? I mean, there's got to be jokes about Deadpool, but clearly he's not going to be dropping F-bombs or talking the way that he talks in his own movies.
He can still, I mean, he can still be raunchy and have his jokes without an actual cuss word. You know what I mean? It's not like fucking shit are coming out of his mouth every line.
Yeah.
But, and like, when Hawkeye, after the blip and Hawkeye got super dark, he was murdering a bunch of fucking dudes. So, I mean,
I think,
it can get dark.
I think the limits you can push with PG-13 now are a little more than what they used to be. Will he be stabbing people in the head and calling people motherfucker in an Avengers movie? No. But will he be able to say everything else besides fuck? Probably. And you can still like push the violence a little bit, I think. I mean, and we got stuff like Daredevil's going to be teaming up with them, but his show is TV mature. So there'll be spaces, I think, for them to use that, but I think they'll figure out a way to make it
I think
work.
The violence will be there and the jokes will be there, and maybe it just won't be as graphic close up. You know what I mean? You've got a big wide shot of a battle scene, and Deadpool runs through a bunch of dudes, and you hear slicing noises, and then the guys fall over. You know what I mean? You're not showing people's heads come off. You're not showing limbs come off, but...
And then you make a fourth wall joke about him. You missed it!
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So...
They'll make it work.
Absolutely. So, there are any potential like adventures you want to see Deadpool on within the MCU now that he's part? Dopinder, you want to see Deadpool and the Adventures, an animated series on Disney Plus? Dopinder and Deadpool.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, it would be.
I'm excited. Like you guys know, I'm not a big comic reader. And you told me that this does happen in the comics. I'm excited to see him and Peter Parker together. You know, I think that would be awesome. I don't think he can contain himself if him and Daredevil were in the same room to mess with him because he's blind and to try stuff on him and have Daredevil just lay him out. Like I think that would be hilarious too. It's gonna be funny. Whoever Deadpool is with, it's usually a good time. So I guess it doesn't really matter. But I'd say Peter Parker. I'd like to see Daredevil and Spider-Man together.
And I like the fact that they were teasing Deadpool and Thor, because clearly this Thor that we get in the MCU is a little bit different. And I know even Chris Hemsworth talked about Love and Thunder being a little too goofy, which it was. But I mean, Thor was always a goofier character in the MCU. So the idea of him, we got to see Thor for a minute with the Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, having Guardians of the Galaxy have Drax, like you said, Drax, Thor, and Deadpool having a conversation would be pretty funny.
Oh my God.
Even though Dave Bautista said he's done, but you never know.
That's true. That's true. We probably won't get a Drax. You're 100%. I forgot about the whole James Gunn of it all.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's just fun, like that being an example of what you just said, Guardians and Thor interacting, and just the humor that came out of that. There's so many options now to have Deadpool interact with some of these people. So it'll be fun. I think he is, like it or not. I like it, and probably everybody does. He is going to be involved heavily because just the popularity of the character. Like, it's hard to be like, Deadpool is a huge part of like a major player in the future of the Avengers stuff, but he's going to be. So, yeah.
Was Deadpool ever an Avenger?
He's been in and out. Yeah.
In and X-Men, out. About Avengers, as much as he was an X-Men?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, it looks like we're getting ready for somewhere in, as we bring it back to the top of the conversation, either an Avengers Doomsday. I mean, I'm imagining that'd probably be the next time we see him as Avengers Doomsday. But when we hit Avengers Secret Wars, he's definitely going to be a part of that. And the last thing I want to ask you guys, did you guys kind of feel it when they gave you the time of your life?
Yeah, sure.
Fox X-Men montage during the credits. Like, I was not expecting that, and that was a lot nicer than I expected it to be.
It was really nice. I thought it was going to be a joke and them making fun of them at first, and then it wasn't. And I was like, you know what? That was nice.
Yeah, I was the whole time waiting for it to become a joke.
Yeah.
But it was like a legitimate tribute to the, since 2000 era of Fox Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
And really cemented the idea that this movie was a tribute to that universe in a very positive, loving way.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what this movie ended up being mainly about, was that. And, like, even in the end of this movie, Deadpool had a line to Logan before he tricked him and went into the room by himself and, like, locked him out. Like, a very sincere moment where Deadpool says to Logan, like, I've been waiting for this team up for so long. And, like, to me, that was also Ryan Reynolds kind of saying that. Like, I wanted to be in a movie with you ever since I got cast as Deadpool, and I'm so glad we got to do one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all that. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and the fact that they went out of their way to save this universe, like that Fox universe still technically exists in its own way when you look at it from a multiversal thing. So it's just all things I didn't expect, but I'm kind of grateful for. I mean, I still remember sitting in the theater watching that first X-Men movie with you guys at Showplace 16 in Indiana, and watching and how big of a shout out Showplace 16. But how big of a deal that was to sit there and watch X-Men on the big screen, and how that was a huge deal. And the fact that we really walked all the way back to that for this movie was unexpected, and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
So just kind of wanted to bring it back around to their I guess, pre-credits or middle of credits yearbook wedding slideshow of a whole bunch of stuff. No Anna Paquin, though.
Never? Didn't show her? I don't know.
I didn't. I don't remember seeing her.
I wasn't paying attention.
Was she embracing Logan at one point?
Maybe. She might have been. I don't know. It all happened.
I think she's in it for a brief second where she's draining him. I can't remember if it was which X-Men movie it was.
I think that was the second.
I think it's that scene. I don't know if they showed her face, but I remember they're hugging and touching, and then he's like...
And them also like throwing Fantastic Four in there too. Like the two Fantastic Four movies were a big part of the Fox superhero stuff, so that was cool. Yeah,
it was, like I said, it was, as we've said a few times now, and I'm going to wrap it up by saying it, love letter to Fox, and I really kind of appreciated that more than I thought since the last few X-Men movies have sucked.
I'll take your word for it. I haven't seen them.
You didn't watch Apocalypse?
Nope.
No Apocalypse. I fell asleep.
No Phoenix Saga. No.
I
New
did
Mutants.
see Phoenix. I did go to the show to see Phoenix, and you know why I went? Because it was 90 minutes, and I was like, you know what? I can give 90 minutes to the X-Men, and you know what? I wish I didn't. But any final thoughts on Deadpool before we wrap up this conversation?
This movie was fun. Go see it. Fun as fuck.
Good old American fun. Yeah, it's a good movie. Fun. It's making a ton of money. I hope it continues to. It's you know, you don't got to think too hard about it. Like I kind of said, it's just go in, have a good time. It's like a blockbuster fun time. You know, and it's good to have fun at a Marvel movie again. So enjoyed it. Recommend it. Good trilogy.
Yeah,
worth going to the movies to see.
Yes, Chris.
Yeah.
Fine. Well, what did you think about Deadpool Wolverine out there? We want to know what you think, so hit us up at raisethegeek@gmail.com or hit us up on our socials and follow us at Raise the Geek everywhere. Everywhere. We are there. Or you can follow us on YouTube at Raise the Geek as well, where you can see our smiling and sometimes scowling faces as they're scowling at me and Don's waving. Got a little bit of both there. So make sure you do that.
Chris.
Mr. Bean. Mr. Bean. You come up with somebody better.
Rowan Atkinson. Is that his name?
Yeah.
Just popped in my head.
You know your movie trivia, but I think that's going to do it for this week. So for Raise the Geek, I'm Chris.
And I'm Don.
And I'm Tony.
And thanks for checking out the show,
where geek is all we speak. Mr. Bean.